Reiji Mukadori buys a copy of Infinite Dendrogram, the world's first full virtual reality MMORPG. Upon entering the game, he is greeted by Cheshire, one of the AIs in charge of overseeing the game, who tells Reiji he must choose an online alias. Reiji chooses the name Ray Starling. As he arrives at the Kingdom of Alter, Ray meets Liliana Grandria, an NPC who asks for his help in looking for her sister Milian. Shu, Ray's brother, offers to help in the quest, but after finding Milian in an abandoned orchard, they are attacked by demi-dragworms. With Shu dragged underground and Liliana fighting elsewhere, only Ray is left to bring Milian to safety. Fortunately, Ray awakens his embryo, Nemesis, who manifests as a sword and destroys the last demi-dragworm, finishing the quest. As Ray, Nemesis, and Shu celebrate the completion of Ray's first quest, Shu explains some of Alter's history to Ray and helps him to become a paladin. Later, Ray and Nemesis attempt to level up, but they are ambushed by a player killer. Despite his efforts to escape, Ray is killed and has to wait 24 hours before logging into Infinite Dendrogram again. To become stronger, Ray and Nemesis go to the Tomb Labyrinth in the Royal Cemetery, where they fight zombies and meet Figaro, one of the top-ranking players in Alter, who recommends Ray to visit Gideon, a city where players can have duels and suffer no penalty for dying. As Figaro takes his leave, Ray and Nemesis continue their fight throughout the labyrinth, but Nemesis is left terrified by the zombies, and Ray consoles her by polishing her blade. Ray, Nemesis, Rook, and Babylon discover that the player-killer band stalking the four corners of Alter have been eliminated. Marie Adler, a journalist working for the Dendrogram Information Network, confirms the story and shows the group a video depicting 3 of the top players in Alter, Figaro included, defeating the player-killers. Marie also confirms that the player-killer stalking the North, the one responsible for killing Ray, escaped and is still at large, giving Ray and Nemesis the opportunity to get even. Later, as Ray and Nemesis survey a destroyed forest, they come across Cheshire, who is running maintenance in the area, and informs Ray that maiden-type embryos like Nemesis share the same functionality as administration AIs. With the player-killers defeated, the roads across Alter are now open and Ray and his allies accept a quest to transport goods to Gideon, with Marie offering to come along. Unbeknownst to Ray and his allies, however, a giant ogre called Gardrandus stalks the road to Gideon. As Ray's groups sets out on their journey to Gideon, they encounter a group of goblins attacking a caravan of travelers. Ray and his allies defeat the goblins until they are ambushed by Gardrandus, who spreads out poisonous gas to weaken Ray. Marie gives Ray an elixir to temporarily protect him from the poison's effects while Rook and Babylon keep Gardrandus distracted. As the battle progresses, Nemesis evolves into her second form and gains the ability, like a flag flying the reversal, which allows her to reverse any status ailments affecting Ray. Despite this, Nemesis' offensive abilities are severely reduced, and Ray only kills Gardrandus when a bullet fired by the unidentified player kills weakens Gardrandus at the last possible second. With the boss defeated and the group arriving at Gideon, the quest ends and Ray is selected as MVP. Ray also obtains 2 magical bracers as new weapons, but he gets himself injured while testing them out, until a stranger in a penguin suit, who calls himself Dr. Flamingo, gives Ray a potion that does heal him, but also gives him animal ears. Flamingo runs away, but not before telling Ray that he should return to normal in 10 hours. Ray and Nemesis visit an item shop in Gideon, where Ray earns a special stallion from a gacha game machine. Unfortunately, Ray cannot ride it without earning a special amulet first. Ray attempts to earn money in order to buy the amulet, until he comes across a fellow master called Hugo and his friend Psycho, and they all get a quest from a woman, who asks them to save her brother from a child kidnapping gang. Upon accepting the quest, Hugo reveals his weapon, a giant robot called Majingier, which he uses to take Ray to the gang's fortress, but not before telling Ray that masters of maiden-type embryos, like Ray, do not consider Infinite Dendrogram to be a game, but as genuine as real life itself. While Hugo and Psycho attack the fortress defenders head-on, Ray and Nemesis infiltrate the fortress and discover that several of the kidnapped children have been murdered and turned into undead monsters. forcing Ray to kill them in an act of mercy. Hugo is attacked by a giant boss guarding the fortress, forcing him to reveal Psycho, whose real name is Cositis, as his embryo and merge her with his Magingier. Hugo destroys the boss while Ray reaches the fortress' lowest dungeon and finds a child as the sole survivor. But as he tries to save him, the child awakens and attacks Ray. Ray survives the surprise attack thanks to Nemesis' halberd form and confronts the mastermind behind the kidnappings, a lich who is trying to create a powerful magical relic called the Crystal of Resentment. The lich attempts to flee, but is stopped by Hugo, and Ray kills him. While Ray and his allies venture deep into the castle to rescue the remaining children, the bandits had worked for the lich attempt to steal his possessions, including the crystal. Unfortunately, the crystal reacts to the lich's death, kills the bandits, and merges with their corpses, creating a new boss. Hugo takes the children to safety, while Ray confronts the boss alone. Nemesis discovers that the boss is controlled by the lingering grudges of the people that compose it, and she gains extra attack power whenever the lich's grudge controls it. Unfortunately, Ray is injured in battle, and Nemesis takes him to safety while going to confront the boss on her own. Ray has a dream about a mysterious girl who observes the time Shu saved him and a little girl from getting hit by a truck, but getting his foot injured in the process. Ray blamed himself for his injury, but Shu told him to believe in himself and to never lose faith in whatever choice he makes. This motivates Ray to return to the fight, but not before the girl reveals herself to be the last remnant of Gardranda's mind, having acquired sentience after Ray killed her original form. Ray and Nemesis destroy the boss and acquire a pair of greaves as a reward. Later that night, Hugo and Cositis meet up with Flamingo, who takes off his penguin suit and discusses his plan to end the war between Alter and Dryfe. With all their major quests finished, Ray and Nemesis meet up with Marie, Rook, and Babylon to have breakfast together. Marie gives them an invitation to a fighting tournament that will be held in Gideon. Later, Shu tells Ray and Nemesis that he is friends with Figaro, who will compete in the tournament. Ray goes to see Hugo in order to split up the reward for the previous quest, and Hugo advises Ray to go west. As the tournament begins, Franklin calls the general of Dryfe's military and tells him of his plan to use the tournament to Dryfe's advantage. Shu gives Ray a telepathy cuff, which can be used to communicate to people across long distances. Shu also warns Figaro that he will face tough opponents in the tournament, but Figaro still intends to win. Ray is about to bet on Figaro for the tournament's next match, but Nemesis stops him, thinking he will waste their money again. They stumble upon Xuanyu, who is carrying an unconscious girl. Ray thinks Xuanyu is about to harm the girl and attempts to fight Xuanyu, who proves to be too fast for him. Fortunately, Shu steps in and defuses the situation, and the unconscious girl is actually an ambassador from the Huang-He Empire, and Xuanyu was her bodyguard. Ray and Shu reunite with the rest of the party as the match begins, with Figaro and Xuanyu set to fight each other. Xuanyu is able to land several hits on Figaro, even cutting out one of his lungs, but as Shu explains, Figaro possesses a special embryo that makes him more powerful the longer he remains in a fight. Just when it looks like Xuanyu has directed a killing blow towards Figaro's heart, Shu reveals that Figaro's embryo is inside his body and is shaped like a heart, protecting him from the attack. Figaro wins the match, but Flamingo interrupts and reveals himself to be Franklin, a scientist working for the Dryfe Imperium. He also reveals he kidnapped Elizabeth, Alter's second princess, and is keeping her hostage.
After Marie Adler buys tickets for the Clash of the Superiors, she encounters a young girl being attacked by thugs in a dark alley. After easily defeating the thugs, Marie learns that the girl is Elizabeth S. Alter, the kingdom's second princess. Elizabeth reveals she has snuck out to explore the city, and the two share a light-hearted moment. However, their encounter is interrupted by knights searching for the princess, forcing Marie to carry Elizabeth and escape across rooftops. As the story progresses, Marie and Elizabeth witness a sinister plan unfold. A villain named Franklin, seemingly a mastermind, unleashes chaos on the city with a series of monsters, including an oxygen slime that explodes when exposed to fire, demonstrating his cruelty and cunning. Franklin reveals that he has planted devices throughout the city that will release more monsters unless the kingdom's masters either stop him or give him the death penalty. Despite the masters' attempts to fight back, Franklin remains in control, causing widespread fear and chaos. The plot takes a dark turn when Franklin reveals his true aim: to break the kingdom's spirit by terrorizing its people, destroying the city, and capturing the princess. He believes that if the princess is taken and the city falls, the kingdom will lose faith in its leadership and masters. Meanwhile, the masters, including Ray Starling, Shu Starling, and Rook Holmes, struggle with the impending crisis and their limited ability to fight back against the growing threat. As Franklin continues to wreak havoc, he challenges the kingdom's forces, teasing them with information about how they can stop him. A fight ensues, with Ray and the rookie masters leading a counterattack against Franklin's forces. After intense combat, including a betrayal by several masters who joined Franklin's side, Ray and his group gain the upper hand, though they still face considerable challenges. While Franklin seems confident in his victory, Elizabeth, now aboard a flying monster with Franklin, begins to question his strategy. Franklin, obsessed with breaking the kingdom's will before the war begins, believes that the kingdom's people will surrender once they see their princess captured and their city in ruins. Elizabeth, however, expresses doubt, having grown to trust the kingdom's masters. As the situation escalates, a group of masters working with Franklin attempts to sabotage the kingdom's defense from within. A series of attacks, betrayals, and battles leave the kingdom's forces at a disadvantage. However, Ray, Rook, and other rookie masters continue to push forward despite the odds, using powerful weapons and tactics to battle Franklin's forces. Meanwhile, as Franklin observes the carnage and prepares for his next moves, a surprise attack by an Altrian master catches him off guard. The master, known as the Superior Killer, defeats Franklin and his monster, leaving Elizabeth to fall from the sky, only to be saved by Marie. Franklin's arrogance crumbles as he realizes the consequences of underestimating his enemies. In a final confrontation, Marie faces off against a group of mechanical monsters led by Velderbel, the king of orchestras, who challenges her with a requiem of death. As Marie prepares for battle, the scene shifts to the freezing, fiery conflict between Hugo Lesseps and a group of masters, where the intense stakes of Gideon's war are further explored. The tension between the kingdom's masters and the external forces, including traitors, monsters, and mysterious figures, escalates as they fight for control over their fate. Velderbel, once a renowned composer, struggles with the inability to fulfill his dream of creating a heroic epic, feeling disconnected from heroes and myths. He regrets not being born in the Age of Knights but finds hope in the virtual world of Infinite Dendrogram, where he becomes a master. In this new world, he sees a chance to find the heroic ideals he's been searching for. Meanwhile, back in Gideon, Marie Adler, struggling with Velderbel's relentless attacks, analyzes his combat style. She identifies 3 unique abilities: a vibration field for defense, sound-based hypnosis, and an ultrasonic scalpel. Suspecting his embryo is a type legion with multiple skills, she deduces that she's ill-equipped to deal with it. After complimenting his music, she inquires if these abilities are from the king of orchestra's job skills, but he reveals that he composed the score himself. She asks why he's in a robot production clan, and he explains that he believes Franklin might become a hero one day, and his dream is to see the birth of one. Velderbel reduces his vibration field's range, making it appear that he's running low on MP. However, he orders his legion, Percussion, to go solo, while being fine-tuned by wind and strings. As Percussion attacks, Marie has a flashback to her own past, recalling the cancellation of her manga Into the Shadow and the writer's block that followed. She turned to Infinite Dendrogram, taking on the persona of Marie Adler and role-playing as her to revive her lost inspiration. Velderbel, thinking Marie is dead after the explosion from Percussion's attack, deactivates his heartbeat palpitation skill. But to his shock, Marie reappears, having survived the blast. She confronts him, destroying one of his defensive items and rushing in with rapid strikes before he can reactivate heartbeat palpitation. Velderbel, amazed at her survival, asks her what she is. Marie reflects on her powerful ultimate job skill, Art of Vanishing, which allows her to use perfect stealth at the cost of significant SP. She ejects a special bullet inscribed with an image of a girl and vows to finish him off. Velderbel declares he cannot die yet, as he's waiting to witness history in the kingdom. The two activate their ultimate skills, Marie's Arc and Seal, Daisy's Scarlet the Explosion Death and Velderbel's Bremen, Wind. The ensuing clash results in a massive explosion, with Velderbel's embryo destroyed and him blown backward. As the smoke clears, Velderbel is stunned to find Marie still standing. She reveals that Daisy Scarlet's ability to manipulate the atmosphere kept her from hearing the fatal music of his Bremen skill. Shocked by her survival, Velderbel refers to her as a Philistine before she finishes him off. Elsewhere, Franklin observes the disappearance of Velderbel's signal on his map, realizing that someone of his strength would not have fallen easily. He concludes that Velderbel won't be a threat anymore, and the only remaining dangers are a handful of superiors in the city, including Ray. Reflecting on their first meeting, Franklin regrets giving Ray an animal ears potion instead of an instant death one, wishing he had been more thorough in his assassination attempt on Liliana Grandria. Despite the tragic breakdown of her family, Hugo channeled her desire to protect others into her current role in Infinite Dendrogram, where she became a knight dedicated to helping those in need. As Ray arrives, Hugo tells him that Franklin is beyond the gate, engaged in battle with the Royal Guard, but warns him that only he is allowed to pass. Hugo's resolve is tested when Ray asks him for guidance. While Hugo hesitates, he ultimately allows Ray to proceed, though Rook Holmes, who accompanied Ray, is forbidden from passing. Rook, however, insists that Ray go ahead and leave things to him. As Ray runs past, Hugo's Magingier, a powerful combat system, springs to life, blocking Ray's path. Hugo asks for an exchange of blows, which Ray accepts. Hugo's internal turmoil is interrupted by an ambush from Rook and Babylon. Rook mocks Hugo for being lost in thought, and expresses disdain for his indecisiveness, calling him loathsome. Hugo brushes off the criticism, but it stings, as Rook's words hit a nerve. The two square off, each fighting for their own reasons, with Hugo fighting as a master of the Triangle of Wisdom and Rook as a friend of Ray. Meanwhile, Franklin observes the battle from beyond the gate, watching as the RSK, his summoned creature, decimates the Royal Guard. Liliana and Sir Lindos combine their attacks in a desperate attempt to bring it down, but they are unsuccessful. Franklin mocks them for being paladins, sword-wielders of the holy element, but the RSK remains unaffected. Just then, a burst of flames signals Ray's arrival, and Franklin's excitement grows. Ray, determined to stop Franklin for his crimes, confronts him, declaring his intent to crush him. Franklin, exhilarated by Ray's sincerity, eagerly anticipates breaking him. Ray points Nemesis at Franklin, determined to end the battle, but Franklin eagerly bounces the challenge back at him. Rook Holmes had always been gifted. Born to a detective father and a thief mother, he inherited their talents, a blend of observation, manipulation, and cunning. His father, a master of human psychology and language, taught Rook how to read people's minds and predict their behavior. His mother, a skilled thief, taught him the art of escape, trickery, and exploiting the blind spots in others. Despite this vast inheritance of knowledge and skill, Rook's parents never pushed him into their respective careers. They always told him that his future was his own to decide. However, tragedy struck when Rook was just 15. A plane crash took both of his parents from him in an instant. With no family left, Rook was left with the question that haunted him: what now? He had no idea what kind of life he wanted to live. Feeling lost and adrift, he stumbled upon an old headgear in his father's study, along with a letter urging him to explore the mysteries of a game called Infinite Dendrogram. Intrigued by the concept of a digital world full of endless possibilities, Rook decided to step into the game, hoping to find purpose and meaning. In Infinite Dendrogram, Rook quickly made a name for himself, his sharp mind and inherited skills allowing him to outwit and outmaneuver many of the game's challenges. But he soon found himself face to face with one of the most dangerous players in the game, Hugo Lesseps. Hugo, a member of the Triangle of Wisdom and an expert strategist, wielded a terrifyingly powerful Magingier and was well known for his ruthlessness in battle. With a swift and powerful strike, Rook sent Hugo's Magingia flying. The figure before Hugo was not only terrifying but oddly familiar. It's Rook, but something's different. This isn't the same player I was fighting earlier. The two clashed once more, their skills colliding in a thunderous exchange. Rook, understanding the moment, readied himself for the final move. Both of them collapsed to the ground, breathless and exhausted. For a moment, it seemed like the battle might go either way. Although Ray is successful in destroying Franklin's monster, he sustains severe injuries and falls unconscious. Liliana casts a healing spell that keeps Ray from dying, but she is unable to heal his left arm. Franklin reveals the monster Ray destroyed was actually the weakest monster he created for the invasion, and he uses a detonator to activate a series of bombs he planted all over Alter. But the bombs fail to activate and Franklin realizes Marie has disarmed them. Rook has captured Hugo and makes him realize that Franklin never intended to end the Alterdrive war with minimal casualties. Franklin summons his embryo, Pandemonium, and sends an army of suicidal monsters to attack Gideon, but Ray awakens and takes on Franklin's monster in order to buy enough time for his allies to prepare a counterattack. With the help of Rook, Marie and a group of players, Ray is able to hold the line. Franklin realizes that, with so many players assisting Ray, Hugo must have betrayed him. Shu enters the battlefield and reveals himself to be the King of Destruction, the player with the highest kill count in all of Alter. He summons his embryo, a battleship that decimates a significant portion of Franklin's army. Franklin realizes he has lost the battle, so he activates his final weapon. A large subterranean creature that will destroy Gideon's Colosseum, but Fatum, a foreign player who had infiltrated the Colosseum, uses magic to move the tectonic plates around the creature, crushing it to death. Ray manages to reach Pandemonium and attempts to confront Franklin, but Hugo steps in to protect Franklin, revealing that Franklin is Hugo's elder sister. Ray sacrifices both arms to defeat both Hugo and Franklin, while Shu destroys Pandemonium and Marie rescues Elizabeth. With the battle over, Liliana heals Ray but is unable to save his left arm, leaving Ray with his right arm to continue playing the game. In the aftermath, Franklin removes Hugo from the Triangle of Wisdom, both in an attempt to protect him and to undo any moral restraints he himself may have in his goal towards beating Ray. Ray also has a rematch with Marie, having already discovered she was the one who killed him in the second episode. Later, Ray disconnects himself from the game and continues his college studies in the real world.